Okay. All right, everybody, let me have your attention. I'm going to go over the plan of what's going on. Before I do that, I want to wrap up just a few things. This is not on the test or anything, but remember, we're not taking a test till Monday. Got that? So that gives you plenty of time. I already had somebody come for a help session. I'm going to be here today at lunch. I'm going to be here after school today. They actually changed the teachers' meeting from Wednesday to Thursday for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. But so I will be here today after school, today at lunch. I'll be here tomorrow at lunch, but not after school tomorrow. And then I'll be here Friday after school. So if you still needed some extra help, if you could kind of work that in, I'll help you if you want help. But I think you do have time to say, I know what I need to do. I know I need to do homework. And if I could just get that ready by Monday, I can do pretty well. And that'll be your last major grade of the quarter, okay? Now the minor grades are the homework. You turn in your homework. You get a grade for that. And then the first part of Density Detective, the 25-point part, that'll also be in this quarter. And then the other part are just not going to quite make it. Didn't quite make it. So the big 130-point Density Detective grade will be your first grade of the third quarter. So, and I'll talk more about that. I want to show you, we had a, Jonah just left. I don't know if you know Jonah very well, but he's very interested in many things. You probably know that. He plays the violin. I think he plays piano. He is going to take his test to become a pilot. He's going to get his pilot's license, and I think he wants to become a commercial pilot. I'm not sure if that's still what he wants to do, but he likes to do a lot of things. And the only reason I mention his name is because last year we were doing this exact chapter, and I told him about a thing that actually we have. This is it's called LabQuest. It's like a little computer. It's about $350. Doesn't look like it, but we got the school. We had the original LabQuest. They're supposed to last 5 or 6 years. We had them for about 10, and they were not working as well. The school, Mr. Schilling very nicely agreed to buy new ones, and so we actually have new ones. I got them last year. Anyway, the reason I'm telling you about that is that you can plug in. I actually have a sensor that's called a barometer, and you can actually plug it in. It'll start reading, and you want kilopascals, it'll read in that. And you could actually do an experiment that lasts for 24 hours if you want. You can do an experiment that lasts for 24 seconds if you want. Well, anyway, so Jonah was so interested in this, he said it just happened to be that there was a storm coming. They predicted a storm over the weekend. He wanted to know, could he take this home and set it up in a nice quiet place, not outdoors. It doesn't matter. Even if you're indoors, the pressure will still change. And so what he did was, this is what happened. He took it home, he had it set up, and during the course of so many hours, here's the storm coming. See the low pressure zone coming in? See how the pressure went down? And then the storm left. I thought that was pretty neat. Then later he said, I'm getting ready to go flying. I can't believe it. I mean, I'd be nervous anyway. And I didn't find out till after he came back that it was actually his first solo flight. He not only was going in an airplane to fly, it was his first time flying by himself. And he still thought, I'm still going to take the LabQuest and the barometer with me. And so the barometer acts like an altimeter also, doesn't it? Pressure. And here he is, he's flying at a certain level, and then he had to make some maneuvers. Had to go up and down. And anyway, so recorded what he was supposed to do on his solo flight. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. All right. The next thing I'm going to show you is I had a student look this up. I told him, oh, okay, that's another storm. I told him about when I was growing up, I liked this person. His name was Jacques Cousteau. You ever heard his name? Jacques Cousteau, he's dead now, but he was one of the co-inventors of the scuba gear, and he was a big oceanographer, and he's like a worldwide ocean, try to save the ocean type thing, and he has the Cousteau Society and so on. Anyway, he wanted to develop a sailing ship, but he wanted a sailing ship that didn't pollute the earth. Now you could have regular sails, and as long as you have wind, you're okay. And the same thing here. So what he did was he made it's called a turbo sail, and so they developed a turbo sail. And these don't look like sails, but what they do is they're shaped like a wing, and as the air moves around them, it creates a lift, and it makes air go from here to there, and it actually propels the ship like a sail. And it's called a turbo sail. And so I had this person look it up, and they looked up turbo sail, and then they also looked up how a regular sailboat works, the vectors, all the vectors involved there. How does a sailboat sail against the wind? Yes, tacking. You can go against the wind with vectors. And anyway, you can go faster than the wind with vectors. And then he did the same thing with, that's a sailboat. And then this same person really got into this. How did the turbo sail also produce push, to push that thing? So that was some really good extra credit. I just wanted to let you know about that. And one more. This is a second student I've had who, I had one this year, but they decided they wanted to be a scuba diver. They want to take a scuba diving class, and there is physics in scuba diving. And as you go through here, you'll see Charles' Law, you'll see Boyle's Law. They'll talk about that. They'll talk about how much pressure you're under as you go into the water and that kind of thing there. So if you do take a scuba diving certification course, that stuff will come back to you, and you'll say, I know what that is. Anyway, that's how I wanted to end that. Let's go over the schedule now. So today, we actually I explain density detective, okay? And then you guys are going to pick groups, and I had to decide what I'm going to do with the people who are absent. That's interesting. I have 3 people absent today. I'll have to make that decision, and I will pretty soon, because it's okay if you're absent like one day. If we do a 5-day lab and you're gone one day, I'm not worried about that. If you're gone half of the lab, I just don't see how you can get the same grade as everybody else. So, yes?
I have news about someone absent.
Okay.
If you didn't already know. Eli is absent because his brother, pretty sure his brother got tested positive. So
His brother was with TC tested.
Okay, his friend was positive. So
What'll happen then is our school has its own protocols, and if he were to get tested also and have a negative test, he would be able to come back after a certain number of days.
Is it still 2 weeks?
Yeah, he actually can come back a little sooner than you think if he gets tested. So what you're asking about is if he was going to be one of your partners, you were wondering about that. We could temporarily put him in a group of 4, and then I could just say, well, I could do that. All right, well, let me move on. So today I actually explained density detective. It does take about 20 minutes just to figure out what the rules are, and then once you know the rules, you say, I think we're about ready to go, and then I'll let you pick your groups, and you'll sit with your groups and think about what your strategy is of starting by tomorrow. So the real lab work will start tomorrow. And so part one of density detective, you should be able to do it and finish it tomorrow. You'll have to do a little bit of research tonight, and even if you didn't quite finish it tomorrow, you could say, well, we're going to finish it first thing on Monday. That would be okay. You'd still be in good shape. And then I'm going to explain the thing to you, but part 1 is worth 25 points, and each person has to do something, and they get their own individual grade for it. But then you also get a group grade. So anyway, I'll explain all that to you, but today you won't be doing any lab work. You'll be listening to how to do the project and thinking to yourself, what's my strategy on this project? Now, when you start part 2 is the 130 point. That's the bulk of the project, and it takes about 4 days. So if you start that next Tuesday, some of you will finish by Thursday. Some of you will. But you'll still get 1 more day, and the following week, we don't go to school on Monday, so Tuesday of the following week will be the last real day. You get that? So that's when it has to really be done. And some of you will be done a day early, and some of you won't. And then we will actually grade it the very next day. You'll be in class with a calculator, and you'll be doing calculations for me, and you'll be grading someone else's paper, and I'll tell you exactly how to grade it and like that, and you'll know your grade before you leave. Okay? Now, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hand out part 1 and part 2 of Density Detective, and I'm going to tell you, again, it takes at least 20-25 minutes to explain the project, and I'm going to go ahead and pass those out now. You can help me. You can give everybody one of those. And let me have one myself. And then you give everybody one of those. There you
It's a Tommy gun.
go. Ooh, I'm surprised you've even heard that word. Parker, where'd you hear that word for?
When I used to do bank robberies.
Okay.
Back in 50s. Back in 50s.
He's an ex-felon.
He's a what?
Ex-felon.
Oh.
Video games.
He's a felon.
Hey, Sarah. Oh,
Patty, how you doing here? How you doing? How you doing with your hand and all that?
It's been like 2 years since it started, so I'm not used to it, but it's still, like, they're my thumbs. Like,
Okay.
I kind of use my thumbs. So
Okay.
it's kind of,
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, here we go. Are you ready? Now, let me tell you that I could choose to not do this project. This project, I really like it. I developed it over 30 years ago, and I've actually changed it. It's evolved. It's very memorable, and it's problem solving. I think a part of physics class should be problem solving, and this is problem solving. You actually will use all the skills that you have been taught in the first semester. So you actually do use science. You use science skills, and you have to think. It is a problem-solving thing. Now, just like Project MLK, everybody was going to go about this project a little bit differently. You know, you might decide we're going to do it this way, but it is kind of like a detective story in that you have to act like a detective also, just like a lot of people say scientists are like detectives. They are. But you have to be careful about evidence. Sometimes you'll see something and you can't jump to a conclusion. You'll be a bad detective if you jump to a conclusion just from one little piece of evidence. But when you get enough evidence, you said, no, I think so. This is it. And so that's the part of the detective part, okay? And scientists have to do that. They'll say, we have a little bit of evidence showing this. Well, let's do some more experiments. Oh, now we have a lot of evidence. I think this is what's going on. So it's very scientific, and it's very much based on what we've done in the class and everything like that. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'll tell you a quick story about the cover. And I was teaching at Grimsley High School, and just like a lot of different physics teachers or physical science, whatever I was teaching, there was times when I wanted them to find the density of objects, okay? And that's kind of a common thing. You might even do it in middle school. But I remember reading somewhere, and I never thought about it before, talking about density of solids and liquids are kind of like fingerprints. Now, it doesn't mean you have real fingers. A fingerprint means I can identify you with that density number. So I was just thinking about that, and I said, well, I wonder if I could make the common lab of finding the density of object, can I make it into something else? Okay, so at the time, there was a movie. This is a long, long time ago, and I don't know how many of you guys know about movies, but a really old movie came out. It was called Dick Tracy. Now, Dick Tracy happens to be a comic strip detective who was in the Sunday papers for over 50 years. I'm not sure if he's still in there or not, but Dick Tracy, even when I was a kid, Dick Tracy was kind of neat because he had a watch. I couldn't believe it. He had a watch where you could look at somebody on a TV screen. I said, oh, that'll never happen. Okay. Well, anyway, so even back then, so it was kind of, but when they made the movie, they said, well, the comic strips, I don't know if you know about comic papers, they only use primary colors in comics. So the entire movie, whoever the director was, that was hard, the entire movie could only use primary colors. So if you go back and watch the movie, you'll see green and red and blue. You won't see any pastels or anything like that. They wanted to make it like the comic strip. And I thought they did a pretty good job on the movie. So anyway, this is a guy named Warren Beatty. He's really old now, but he was a really big movie star in the 70s. Anyway, so I'm at Grimsley, and this kid comes in, and they're really trying to promote this movie, and it's one of the first times I saw them use black T-shirts to, like concerts. Every time you go to a concert, they actually use a black T-shirt, and they had this on there, and if you notice, this is a ticket. This is a movie ticket. Okay, and that's what it said here. I was there first. And they were trying to promote the movie thinking, I'm going to go be the first people to go see this movie, Okay, so what I did is, I honestly did this. I saw this kid with a shirt on. I said, I don't know where it came from. I said, here, I'm going to give you $1 to go down to the library, the school library, take your shirt off, and photocopy your shirt. And this came from somebody, I don't know the kid's name. But he photocopied this on there, and what I did was, instead of saying Dick Tracy, I tried to copy the font, and I put Density Detective. So that's when Density Detective kind of got started. And so it is a detective story, but it is based a lot on density, okay? Now, I will tell you that the first thing you should do is put your name up here, okay? So that put your name up the top. And now, eventually what's going to happen is I will assign you a code number. Now, I'm not really tricky with code numbers. What's going to happen is this class is called B class, isn't it? So if you happen to be the first group, if you're the first group and you say, we have a group, I'll say, okay, your group is going to be called B001. And then the second group is going to be B002. And so it's not like a tricky code number. You get it? All right, ready? All right, everybody get your name there, and you'll eventually get a code number, and you'll find out later that when you turn things into me, you'll have to have your code number. So that's why that's going to be on there. Now, even though I'm going to let you, if you want to take these home, you can do that until tonight if you want. But as soon as you start taking data in here, in this section, and you won't do that, so you can take this home, but starting on Monday, these stay here. So if you want to take this home this week, it's up to you. Now, have I ever had people do a really creative job of coloring their thing? And have I ever given them a few bonus points for that? I have. I'm not telling you have to do that. But also, you want to take it home so you can read the directions again. And if you want to do that, that's up to you. Get that? There's no promise on that. I'm just saying that sometimes I've seen people do a really, really good job on that, and I've given a couple bonus points for that. All right, we're ready to go. Let's turn the page. This right here, and again, I'm a little out of sync. When I decided that when they were going to have the exams early, I said, well, I want to be at a certain point for the exam, and this is not really on the exam, so I postponed Density Detective, and normally you would have done this after the unit for density and that kind of thing. Remember that? This right here is simply a sheet that should be already in your brain. Your brain should already be working like this. If I gave you any object, I gave you a baseball. Let's say I gave you a baseball. I said, find the density of the baseball. Your mind should already say this. Is it a solid or a liquid? It's a solid. Find its mass on the balance. See that? Okay, I need mass, I need volume. Okay, good. Is this object a regular solid with 90-degree angles? No. No, it's not. It's irregular, or does it have another equation to it? Now, if it happens to be a baseball, I could maybe use the equation for the volume of a sphere, couldn't I? So now I have mass, and now I have volume. I should be able to figure out density. All right, another thing we do is, everything you do in this lab has to do with significant figures. Remember that? If I use a ruler and the lines go to tenths of a place, then you have to estimate hundreds, don't you? So everything has to be very, very scientific in this thing. So this sheet is only there to help you in case you just can't. How do I find the density of this thing? Find the mass, find the volume. Okay, let's go here now. In this metropolis, whose main name may have come from the fact that bears used to hibernate around here. Does everybody know the name of the town, of the city?
Well,
Yeah, Den City. All right. Well, anyway, in Den City, strange events have been occurring here. Recently uncovered information had led us to believe that a very diverse gang of 10 criminals has been operating here since around 1982. By the way, I made this story up. Every year I have one person who tells me, really? No.
Yes, you have.
Okay. It is believed that this gang has somehow tampered with the U.S. currency and this has been the source of the gang's financial empire, perhaps $1 billion. Teams of density detectives like yours will have been brought in. You'll have 5 days to do the following. Goal number 1, worth 25 points. Find solid density evidence that shows where this gang's financial bankroll is coming from. With volume being the independent variable and mass being the dependent variable, gather data for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 pre-1982 pennies. Draw a best fit straight red line through 0, 0, if it does go through 0, if it does, and find the slope, which is the density. Now, on the same graph, do the same for the post-1983 pennies. Draw a best fit blue line and find the slope. So if you take a look at this piece of paper right here, what you'll do is, starting tomorrow, each of you in your group has to come up with 10 pennies that are older than 1982, and then 10 pennies that are newer than 1983. So don't bring any 82s, don't bring 83s. Try to find 10 pennies that are older than pre-82 and 10 pennies that are... So if you have at least 3 of the 4 people in your group bring pennies, you'll have 30 pennies, won't you? If somehow you have a lame group, if you have a group that don't bring any pennies, I actually have a bunch of pennies, but it's going to take you a while to look through those pennies, and you're already getting behind, aren't you? If you already have the pennies ready, you can start right away tomorrow with this one. So you actually get credit for doing the correct data table. If you need to go back and look at the scientific graphing pack that we had, if you need to go back and look, how do I properly put a heading on here? How do I do it? You get credit for having a nice data table with your numbers in it. Then you will graph the volume and mass here, and you'll have 2 graphs on the same graph paper. One graph will be for the pre-82 pennies, and one will be the post-83 pennies. And so you'll have 2 different lines on here, right? And I'll be judging that too, and I'll ask you to find the slope, just like I did when I quizzed you on this part. Now, I'll also ask you to calculate the slope right here, like that. Now, we're almost done. Then it says here, you will also do one more thing. You will hand in an index card. I will give you an index card tomorrow, and you'll put your code number on it, and you'll staple that onto everybody else. So if you have 4 people in a group, you take all 4 people's graphs. By the end of the period, hopefully everybody's done. If not, you turn it on Monday. And then you staple the index card onto the graphs, and you turn it in. And here, let me tell you what happens then. And then I'll grade that, okay? Now, the reason, if everybody's looks exactly the same, everybody should get the same grade on that. You get that? But some people don't do their data table right. They don't do their best fit line right. They don't do their calculations right. And that would be the reason why maybe somebody in your group wouldn't get the same grade as you. Get that? But normally, you would get the same grade. Now, 20 points are from the graphing part, and 5 is if you do this. It says here, hand in a card with the group's code number on it, identifying the 2 materials based on density. Now, I gave you some density numbers here. You'll also, on the very, very last page, I stuck some more in there. I think the very, very, very last page of this packet, it has some more density numbers, or you can look up your own density numbers, okay? And what you like a detective, you want to say, hey, scientifically, our numbers look like this is what the pennies are made of. Now, a real scientist would have to take a educated guess on that and said, ooh, there's 3 of them that could be, but I'm going to let you go ahead and look up pennies if you want, and you find out what they actually are made of. You get that? And you can include that on your index card too. That's the research. Got it? That's the research that's involved. Okay, so now, if your card's not written very well, if it doesn't really explain to me how the group made money by doing this, they did something to make money with pennies. If you do a good job on that, you can get all 5 points on that. Okay? And again, anything you do that's extra, I sometimes give bonus points for. All right, here we go. Now, priority goal number 1 more time. Hand in as a group the Density Detective Investigation Agency graph, and from each person, properly fill that data table with two best fit lines, different colors, labeled pre-82 or post-82 pennies. The slope calculations showing all units. Don't use fractions, use decimals. Hand in a card with your codes number on it. Staple this to there. Identify the 2 materials based on density and how this would lead to the financial gain of the gang. Research. Now, when you do that, as soon as you give that to me, I will give you a set of free clues. Most of the time, detectives have to look for clues, but if you hand this in and everybody has it done, I will give you some free clues to the main part of Density Detective. If you don't get this done, you don't get the free clues. You get it? Now, again, if you already have the pennies, you bring the pennies tomorrow and you don't have to sift through all of my pennies, you'll probably get a head start, won't you? If you do a good job, you'll get finished, you'll get the free clues, you'll get started on the project before anybody else. Got that? Okay, now, are you okay with part 1? Do you see yourself tomorrow? You're in a group, and you want to take this home tonight and said, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be ready tomorrow. Our group's going to be ready to go, and I'm not going to make a mistake. We know what we're doing. Okay, we're going to be careful. We're going to use significant figures. Got that? Okay. All right, now, that is the last grade that would be for this quarter. Okay, and again, some of you will turn it in tomorrow. A lot of you will turn it in on Monday. I get it. That'd be the last thing I know I can grade. Oh, I'm sorry. Even though you turned in on Monday, we have a test on Monday. Remember that? So we do take our test on chapter 20 on Monday. So you would start your part 2 on Tuesday. Okay, here we go. Now, the bulk, 130 points. The main part of Density Detective is the 4-day lab. All right, so you take 4 days to do this part. You are to find the fingerprints of 10 very shady characters. Each has his own personality, and to get all 10 fingerprints will require much care and thought. You are to use class time to obtain vital information about each character. Place all information in the appropriate case file space. Show all clues so that the court, that's me, can tell that the fingerprints were obtained legally. Now, again, I have to explain this to you because if you're a real lawyer and you want to take something to court, if it's not legally obtained, they say, case dismissed, and that person goes free, don't they? If you want to go to court and said, I know this is one of the criminals, and here's my evidence, you have to have the evidence here, doesn't it? So what I'm going to do here is not the very last page, but the next to last page. This is very, very important. This sheet here is going to determine mainly your score, okay? Now, what we did is, if you'll look back on that table, can you see that table back there? That table back there, I've asked the police to go find suspects that may have committed this crime. We know there were 10 in the gang, but I didn't know who they were. So I got everybody who I thought might be a suspect, and we have 30 suspects. Okay, now, so hang on here. Okay, one more time. Now, you'll have a chance to see that, and right now, all you see is a bunch of different things. There's a ball, there's a rock, there's a bottle, and those are characters, okay? And you have to pretend that they're real possible criminals. They're suspects, aren't they? But you can't take the density of all 30, and you don't know which one is in the gang. So that's part of your thing. Which one do you have to take the densities of? Now, how do we do that? First of all, let's pretend that you have enough clues to say, I know who Silvery Dan City is. I know which one of those is Silvery Dan City. Your group then sits down and said, let's do the best job we can of finding the density. Now, this is important, okay? You're going to court with this paper. You're going to say, you're not going to just write a number. There won't be any numbers just floating around here. You're going to say mass equals. You say blah, 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 grams. Get that? Now, the judge, that's me, the judge knows that the only way you can find the mass in here is with a balance, isn't it? You don't have to tell me how you found the mass. I have electronic balances. One of them has a maximum capacity of 200 grams. If you get something heavy, it won't work on there. Wait, you might have to go to the 400 gram balance. And if it's more than 400 grams, I have a double pan balance. You can go up to 2 kilograms with that guy. You get that? Are you looking at me? All right. I don't tell you which instruments to use. You do. You have to choose which instrument to use, okay? Anyway, so let's say if you write mass equals so many grams, the judge says, I'll accept that because I know you had to use one of my balances. You get that? But the judge will not accept volume equals blah, 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 because I want to know how you found the volume. You can't just come to court and say, his volume is this. How do you know that? Where's your proof on that? And so let's say, what if this guy here was a ball? Let's pretend it was a ball. You say volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed, and then I would see you put numbers in there, 4/3 pi, and then you would say, you put the radius in here and cube it, and then you say volume equals, and see that? Now the judge likes that because the judge knows that you use a mathematical equation to find the volume. Get it? I'm looking at your faces. And now, if you have mass and you have volume, and those are legal, you should be able to put their density here. Every year, I have people that divide the wrong way. You're going to get the bad density number. Get that? What's the density again? Mass over volume, isn't it? Now, even though you have different sig figs, depending on which balance you use and that kind of thing there, I would like you to round this off to 3 sig figs. Keep sig figs in here, as many as you have, but round this number to 3 so that when I judge it, when I grade it, everybody will be in the same ballpark of 3 sig figs. Okay. Now, let me talk about this a little bit. These are the names of the 10 criminals. But which one of those 30 are the 10? And that's the detectives start coming, right? So let's go back. Let's go back now. And by the way, this is like your file cabinet. This is confidential. Confidential. Do not leave this sitting out. No other group should ever see your files. You get that?
I'll look at it if you leave it out.
No, I'll mark minus so many points on it, and you'll get minus points, but your partners won't.
Oh.
Do not leave this out. Because if you worked hard to get this information, no one should be able to walk by your desk and pick it up easy. Get it? It is hard work. All right, let's go back now. Are you okay so far? All right, now let's go back to where it says part 2. It says, oh yeah, so you have to keep all that information on that file. That's the thing you take to court with you. That paper is very important, okay? All right, this says here, always keep your case file information hidden. It has been said that case files left off will receive -2 or -4 points written on them, and I don't want to do that, but it's not right for you to leave your information out unless somebody steal it, okay? Okay, do not talk with anyone except the ones in your group. If they're in your group, you can talk all day to them. Do not talk to another group Do not talk to them about where you found a clue. Do not talk to them about anything. Get that? And you have to be honest about this. I think you'll have fun if you obey the rules. You can cheat on anything. If you obey the rules, you're going to enjoy this. And you can't tell, even your best friend, if they're not in your group, you can't go talk to them and say, here's what I found out. It's just like cheating. So if you guys do the right thing here, I think you're going to enjoy this, all right? Will you get frustrated? Yeah, you will. And then will you discover something and be joyful? Yes, you will. Okay, so there's all kinds of things that are going to go on during this project. All right, let's go to the next part now. To score points, each density fingerprint will be evaluated with the case file information. If your information is legal and it tells me where you got the volume, you see that? And I know that's how you legally got the volume, how you did it, and it has that, and it has the density number, then it will be graded. Now, if it's graded, if you have less than 3% error, you will get 10 points. For that character, you get 10 points. How many characters are there? How many criminals were there? 10. So if you were to get a 10 on your density numbers, you found the right guy, and you do a good job on it, there's 100 points right there, isn't it? That's 100 points right there. Now, what if you're not so good, or you don't measure really carefully? Maybe you are between 3 and 9. Well, then you only get 8 points for that character. You get that? So you got to be careful. What if you were to get down to like 9 to 15% error, and you only get 6 points? If you get more than 25% error on the density number, I call that a oops, and you get nothing. You might have found the right criminal, but you cannot say that's his fingerprint. You get it? You're more than 25% off. So you want your group to be careful when they measure. This would be a total of 100 points. Note, if your case files do not confirm your density number, you'll get a 0 for that character. You get that? If I look at your files and it says this is the mass and this is the volume, but you get some density number that doesn't come from that, what's the judge going to say? Throw that case out. Release that prisoner. Okay, you don't want to get a 0 on any character. The next 20 points are received from the following. Find and write out the hidden clues located in various places around the school. And I'm going to show you what they look like. Now, I haven't put them out yet, but I will. They'll all be out by Monday. By Monday, they'll be out. But I went online, and I went and found the movie Dick Tracy. And then they had some little things like that, and I made clues out of them. And so I'll show you what they look like. Okay. So you might see this somewhere on campus. Now, you're not allowed to take it off the wall, but you are allowed to open it and read it. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is, I've done this project for, like I said, about 30 years, and before, what people had to do was, when they left the room, they would take a piece of paper with them, and if they found some clues, they would write the clues out. They would come back, and you would have to write the clues out also. To modernize this, about 5 years ago, here's what I'm allowing to do. If you promise that you will never share the picture with anybody, even in your group, you may use your phones to take a picture of the clue and then come back and have everybody write the clue down by hand. You get that? You may not take a picture of the clue and send it to anybody. Got that? Okay, now, so you have to promise you will not send the picture to anybody, and you have to promise, number 2, at the end of Density Detective, that you'll delete all those photos. Now, if you cannot do that, and you cannot honestly say that you're willing to do that, then you just take a piece of paper with you, and you just write the clues like everybody used to do. Get it? But I think you're gonna enjoy that. Now, I'm gonna talk about that a little bit. Where are the clues located? Number 1, I will not go past, if you go this way, I will not go into the parking lot over there. Get that? So if you're on this side of the driveway, that's fair game. See this sidewalk right here? I will not go past that roadway there. So there could be a clue right outside my room, outdoors. I will not go past the gym. Now, you know where the gym has a, at the end of the gym, it goes down and the elementary kids walk there. Okay, I will not go past that sidewalk there, get that? So I could have something on the end of the gym in that little, little grassy area. That's as far as I will go. I will not go past, if you go, the cafeterias, right? I will not go past that driveway either. Now, they could be in the playground. I could put them in the playground. It could be the tether ball. I could have them at the tether ball. But I won't go anywhere where there's a road. You see that? I don't want anybody crossing any road to go find a clue. And I won't have you go to the elementary building to find a clue. Are you okay with that? So that's a pretty big space, isn't it? Could you find a clue in Mr. Powell's room? Yes. Now, all I ask you to do is, if you get here early in the morning, you can go look for clues in the morning. You can go look at clues at lunch or after school. You could even, in passing periods, you could go look for clues. I'm not allowing anybody to interrupt somebody's class, though. And here's the rules about leaving. If we start on Tuesday, sorry. If Tuesday is when you actually start this part here, you can designate one person to leave the room during that class. But if that person leaves that day, they can't leave on another day. Now, you can look for clues anytime you want outside of class, you get it? There's no restrictions there, but if you do it during class, you can't have the same person go more than one day. Am everybody with me? All right, so in your group, Sarah, if you decide on Tuesday you're going to go look for clues, then everybody else, I guess they're going to be working in here, hopefully, and then you come back and tell them you found some clues. Now, why is she looking for clues? Why is she looking for clues? Because we have 30 suspects, and we don't know which 10 are the criminals, and we need evidence. Now, remember, when you finish your graph, you get some free clues. I start you out with free clues, you get it? But those aren't quite enough. They're not enough to tell all 10. So you got to go out and find these other clues. Got it? Now, how many of these do you have to find? I know, but how many is that? Okay, so you look down here. The other 20 points are indicated by the following, and you get 2 points apiece, and there are 10 clues that you have to find. You got it? Now, do I have multiples of it? Yes. Like clue number 1, there might be clue number 1 over here, and clue number 1, it's the same clue, but I have more than one of clue number 1. But there are also, and by the way, you have to write those down. I'll show you where to write those down. Okay, now, if you look back in here, right before you got to your file cabinet, see where it says density detective clues? It says required. Everybody see that? Okay, now, let's say you find DD number 3. If you find DD number 3, everybody in your group has to write down what was on the clue, and then when we judge that, on Judgment Day, not that Judgment Day, on Judgment Day, then what I do is the judge will say, look here, and if they have this written, give them 2 points. Give them 2 points, okay? And so if you find all 10 of those, and everybody in your group has it written down, everybody's going to get those 20 points. You got 100, you got a 20, that's 120, and we're almost done. Now, let's go back. So there are 10 clues that you have to find, but there are also other clues. Now, I'm not going to tell you about those because that's part of the project. Part of the project is there's always something hidden. There's always extra things in the project. You get that? Only once, but I have almost 25 bonus points somewhere in this project. See, right now you have 100 and you have 20, and then you have, I'll show you how to get your other 10 points just a minute here. But you could actually get 25 more points there. And so if your group does really, really well and finds whatever these extra clues are, you could actually get 155 out of 130. That's a lot of bonus points that you could even carry on for the rest of the quarter. All right, the last 10 points are cash points used to ask the informant if your answer of the character is right or wrong. And so let me tell you what that looks like. What I have to do is I have to go upstairs and I have to go find some green paper. What I'm going to do is, and I'll find, and you will be given some snitch cash. Okay, now snitch cash is money, density detective money. See that? And it'll have your code number on it, so I know it only belongs to you. And if you don't use this at all, you get 1 point for every one of these bucks that you don't use. That's 10 points. You get it? These are not extra. But let's say, like this happens sometimes, detectives think they know which the character is, but they narrow it down to 3. I know it's got to be one of these 3. I just don't know which one. So what do you have to do? You have to go find a snitch. And then, all right? And I have 2 roles. I'm the judge, but I'm also a snitch. Okay? So if you come up to the snitch, and you come up to me, and you cut one of these out, and you come up and you say, and here's what you have to do here. It says, can I turn the page? I'm going to turn the page, okay? I'm going to have a bunch of index cards around here. And here's what you do. You say, I know it's one of these 3. So you pick one of the 3, you find the mass, you find the volume, you find the density, and then you put your code number on it, and then you come up and you cut one of these out. And you hand me the index card and this, and you show me the character, and you say, is this Cecil Ender? And I look at your information, and I take your money, and I say, no. Or I say, yes. And you don't tell anybody else. You don't tell anybody else. Okay? Now, every year, I have people that will not spend that, and then they sometimes have 2 or 3 characters. You got the wrong one. They think it's not worth 1 point to maybe distinguish between the thing you don't know. Get it? If I was a real detective and I knew it was between you did it or you did it, and I had an informant and I trusted the informant, I'd pay him that money. Wait, don't be stingy with these, okay? There's really not that many points, is it? So, but if you have to use that, you have to fill out a card, you have to do a little work and say, is that Cecil Ender? If I say no, well, then I keep the money and you go on. You tell your group, say, that's not him, that's not him. You okay with this? Okay, this is, like I said, it's kind of a memorable thing. I could do something else in physics, but this is kind of fun. All right. Oh, I'm almost done. All right, now, be a good observer. Look for clues. Reread all clues. All right, when you bring the clue back to your desk, you have to say, what does this mean? What does this clue mean? Handle evidence carefully. Take good measurement, blah, blah, blah. Think rationally, and if something seems too easy or too hard, don't jump to conclusions. Try to confirm your suspicions. Double check your work with others. Ask, is this conclusion reasonable? I have had somebody turn in one of these and told me the density was a certain number, and when we did the percent error, the record at this point is 580,000% error. Now, how did a group allow everybody in that group to turn in a density number that was so far off?
They're trying to break the record,
Maybe that's it. 500,000% error. How do you do that? Okay, now, so what I like to do is, I'm going to stop here. Now, for right now, you take this home, and you do whatever you want to do with this, and then you bring it back, and then if you're ready to go tomorrow, I'm going to ask you tomorrow. I'm going to say, okay, you have a group, and I'll write your name down, your group number B001, and everybody will know. So right now, we're going to wait to see who's here tomorrow, okay? We're going to wait to see who's here tomorrow. But if you already kind of know your group, just to make sure everybody knows, we're going to have groups of 4. We're going to have groups of 4 unless these 3 people aren't here, and then I have to change it. All right.